Hi. So, we're going to be looking at high fructose corn syrup. Fructose, however you say it. HFCS. Me personally, I I always try to avoid products that have high fructose corn syrup. It's hard because just about everything has it. It's in ketchup, it's in sauces, it's in dressings, it's in even stuff you wouldn't think it's in, like bread. They sneak it in everything, so it is difficult, but when possible, I do try to avoid it. Uh, if I'm gonna go barbecue sauce shopping, say, I will read all the labels and choose the sauce that doesn't have high fructose corn syrup. I don't like high fructose corn syrup because, from what I understand, it kind of just came out, ended up becoming extremely popular and used in everything, and there's really no testing for I'm stumbling here. Basically, society nowadays using high fructose corn syrup with everything are the guinea pigs. We're the guinea pigs for what happens to you. They don't really know what this does. It's just something that they made and they put it in everything, and there's really no data on if this does anything to the body. One thing I would say it does, which is why I try to avoid it as well, is I feel like part of the obesity epidemic nowadays is due to high fructose corn syrup. Granted, portions have gotten much larger than they were, but think about it. In the 50s, people were you don't hear about fat people in the 50s. Everyone was kind of fit, Then again, though, everything was different. People were cooking at home. Things were smaller sizes, like soda and stuff. But even then, that soda that they drank, it might have been a 6-ounce can versus a 12-ounce that we have now, or a 20-ounce bottle or whatever, but it had real sugar. It didn't have high fructose corn syrup. And it wasn't really until the 90s that high fructose corn syrup just started going crazy, and everything started to get it. And now look, now we have the society with everyone being fat. So I feel there's a correlation there. It's, everyone always says, oh, sugar's not good for you, it makes you fat, blah, blah, blah. But I don't think it's so much sugar's the problem, it's high fructose corn syrup is the problem. Sugar is natural, it grows. Yeah, granted, you could say high fructose corn syrup comes from corn and corn grows, but there's also engineering in there as well. It's not just literal corn syrup, where sugar is just sugar. It grows, you harvest it, and you sell it. So, I wanted to just kind of do a little bit of a dive into this, find out what high fructose corn syrup really is, and then do some research on what's bad about it beyond what I personally think, which I just laid out. So, right here we have high fructose corn syrup, also known as glucose fructose, isoglucose, and glucose fructose syrup, is a sweetener made from cornstarch. As in the production of conventional corn syrup, the starch is broken down into glucose by enzymes. Gives you some stats here that doesn't really matter for our purposes. All right, history. The intermediately sugary HFCS 55, introduced in the late 70s, is the most commonly used sweetener in U.S. soft drinks. The fine-tuning of HFCS manufacturing occurred during a period in U.S. history when sugar was becoming more expensive, in part due to trade restrictions, and corn cheaper. Dangers. High fructose corn syrup has crept into more of our foods over the last few decades, as I said, with bread and every condiment and just everything. I can't even come up with examples because there's really no examples to come up with. It's in everything. Go to the store and look at the ingredients. It's high fructose corn syrup is definitely one of the top 2 ingredients easily. And if it's not one of the top 2 ingredients, it's going to be a part of some other ingredient down the line. It's in everything. It's ridiculous. If you probably trying to live with a diet that avoids high fructose corn syrup is probably harder than being vegan. And being vegan is pretty hard. But trying to avoid high fructose corn syrup is probably harder because it's in everything. So anyhow, it's cheaper and sweeter than sugar, and it is much more quickly absorbed by the body. Eating too much high fructose corn syrup can lead to insulin resistance, obesity, type 2 diabetes, and high blood pressure. Effects. Many serious diseases have been linked to the overconsumption of fructose, which obviously, when it's high fructose corn syrup, that's even worse. So if you're ingesting a lot of stuff that's jam-packed with this, like drinking lots of soda and, saucing up your food and such, then this kind of goes back to what I said with the obesity epidemic. There you go. That's why everybody's fat. Guzzling bottle after bottle of soda and packing down your chips and all this other crap that's just loaded with this garbage. So anyhow, HFCS and sugar have been shown to drive inflammation, which is associated with an increased risk of obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. The high insulin levels caused by sugar could also fuel tumor growth, which that's not very positive. So that means if you start with a tumor, you can end up feeding it just by drinking soda and stuff, just making things in your body worse. Advantages. At the end of the day, there's not much. It's mostly just capitalist interests, because as it says, high fructose corn syrups helps food and beverage professionals keep costs down for themselves and their consumers. As an ingredient, it costs less than any other caloric sweetener and offers a more stable pricing history than sugar. And usually, the cheaper something is, the more trash it is for you. Think about it. Everything that's organic costs more. Why? 'Cause it's supposed to be better. Everything healthy costs more. But this crap's cheap, so it's garbage. Even like Taco Bell, their food's cheap, and they did those documentary or whatever on how Taco Bell uses like very low grade meat. It's like 55 lean. It's terrible garbage meat. It's like USDA or something. That's why this stuff can be cheap, which you can't even say that now because their stuff's not cheap. So they're still using garbage meat but charging you more. Anyhow, what's in this interesting finds tab? I didn't look in here before. This is interesting. I'll get to this one in a minute, though. What I want to do instead is, it talks about fructose and glucose, so I want to get into exactly what those are. So fructose is apparently just a sugar substitute, which is from fruit, and is a simple ketonic monosaccharide found in many plants, where it is often bonded to glucose to form the disaccharide sucrose. It is one of the 3 dietary monosaccharides, along with glucose and galactose, that are absorbed directly into blood during digestion. Some more stats, the formula and stuff doesn't really matter for us right now. Function. Fructose is a monosaccharide, or single sugar, that has the same chemical formula as glucose but a different molecular structure. Sometimes called fruit sugar, fructose is found in fruit, some vegetables, honey, and other plants. Fructose and other sugars are carbohydrates, an important source of energy for the body. Food source. The highest dietary sources of fructose, besides pure crystalline fructose, are foods containing table sugar, sucrose, high fructose corn syrup, agave nectar, honey, molasses, maple syrup, fruit, and fruit juices, as these have the highest percentages of fructose, including fructose and sucrose, per serving compared to. Story ends, I'm not going into it. Metabolism. Unlike glucose, which is directly metabolized widely in the body, fructose is almost entirely metabolized in the liver in humans, where it is directed toward replenishment of liver glycogen and triglyceride synthesis. Glucose and lactate are then used normally as energy to fuel cells all over the body. Calories, kind of a random subtopic, but fructose has the same calories per gram, 4 calories per gram, as any other sugars, which means it doesn't matter the type of sugar you consume, the body is gaining the same amount of energy. It's just a matter of how it's broken down and such that makes high fructose corn syrup worse. But this isn't about high fructose corn syrup. Oh no. Why did... This isn't about high fructose corn syrup. It's about... This article, it's about fructose. What did it say? Is it bad for you? We'll look into this really quick. The surprising truth. Whoa. Along with glucose, fructose is one of the major components of added sugar. Some health experts believe fructose is the worst of the two, at least when consumed in excess. Yeah, fructose, because high fructose. So obviously just regular fructose is terrible too. What is fructose? Fructose is a type of simple sugar that makes up 50% of table sugar, sucrose. Table sugar also consists of glucose, which is the main energy source for your body cells. However, fructose needs to be converted into glucose by the liver before it can be used by the body. It is also found in various sugary sweeteners like high fructose corn syrup and agave syrup. If a product lists added sugar as one of its main ingredients, you can be pretty sure it's high in fructose. Before the mass production of refined sugar, humans rarely consumed it in high amounts. While some sweet fruits and vegetables contain fructose, they provide relatively low amounts. Yeah, this is what I was saying about the 50s, how people, had smaller portions and cooked at home more. And there wasn't high fructose corn syrup. It was just regular sugar that you would consume. And some people do not absorb all the fructose they eat. This condition is known as fructose malabsorption, which is characterized by excessive gas and digestive comfort. Excessive gas? I didn't know not being able to absorb fructose was a thing. That can be gas problem. You always associate people who are gassy with like broccoli and stuff, not fructose. In those with fructose malabsorption, fructose acts as a fermentable carbohydrate and is categorized as a FODMAP. Unlike glucose, fructose causes a low rise in blood sugar levels. Therefore, some health professionals recommend fructose as a safe sweetener for people with type 2 diabetes. However, others are worried that excessive fructose intake may contribute to several metabolic disorders. These concerns are discussed in the next chapter. There's a summary of what we just read. Why is fructose bad for you? Glucose and fructose are metabolized very differently by the body. While every cell in the body can use glucose, the liver is the only organ that can metabolize fructose in significant amounts. When people eat a diet that is high in calories and high in fructose, the liver gets overloaded and starts turning the fructose into fat. Many scientists believe that excessive fructose consumption may be a key driver for for most of the serious diseases of today. These include obesity, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and even cancer, which is what I just said in the very beginning. See, high fructose corn syrup is terrible for people. That's why everyone's fat and has diabetes and stuff. However, more human evidence is needed. Exactly. Another thing I was talking about in the beginning. There's not enough trials yet. We're the guinea pigs. Researchers debate the extent to which fructose contributes to these disorders. A little summary of what I just said. I'm not going to read that. The harmful effects of excess fructose. While excessive fructose is undoubtedly unhealthy, its health effects are controversial. Nevertheless, there is a considerable body of evidence justifying the concerns. Eating a lot of fructose in the form of added sugars may impair the composition of your blood lipids. Fructose may raise the levels of VLDL cholesterol, leading to fat accumulation around the organs and potentially heart disease. Ugh, that's not good. Increased blood levels of uric acid, leading to gout and high blood pressure. Not good. Cause depression of fat in the liver, potentially leading to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Yep. Once they said the fat around stuff, that's what I thought of. Cause insulin resistance, which can lead to obesity and type 2 diabetes. Fructose doesn't suppress appetite as much as glucose does. As a result, it might promote overeating, hence obesity. Excess fructose consumption may cause leptin resistance, disturbing body fat regulation and contributing to obesity. Note that not all of this has been proven beyond a shadow of doubt in controlled studies. Exactly. I've gone over this 6 times now. However, the evidence is still there, and more studies will paint a clearer picture in the coming years and decades. Like I said, we're the guinea pigs. Wait till we're senior citizens. Fructose from added sugar is bad for you. Fruit is not. It's important to realize that all of this does not apply to whole fruit. Fruits are not just watery bags of fructose. They are real foods with a low calorie density and lots of fiber. They're hard to overeat on, and you would have to eat very large amounts to reach harmful levels of fructose. In general, fruit is a minor source of fructose in the diet compared to added sugars. The harmful effects of fructose apply to a Western diet supplying excess calories and added sugars. It does not apply to natural sugars found in fruits and vegetables. This is some weird ad. And I guess that's it. I saw a few things that were clickable that we should look into just for further knowledge. Like, for example, I don't know what gout is. Okay, gout is a type of arthritis, an inflammatory condition of the joints. It affects an estimated 8.3 million people in the US alone. People with gout experience sudden and severe attacks of pain, swelling, and inflammation of the joints. Fortunately, gout can be controlled with medications, a gout-friendly diet, and lifestyle changes. And then, yeah, that's just an article for that. Okay. Can I go back to where I was? Oh, here we go. And now, there was one other thing up here that I saw we should click on for further information. It was FODMAP. What is FODMAP? FODMAP 101, a detailed beginner's guide. Since what you eat can have a major effect on your body, digestive issues are incredibly common. FODMAPs are types of carbohydrates found in certain foods, including wheat and beans. Studies have shown strong links between FODMAPs and digestive symptoms like gas, bloating, stomach pain, diarrhea, and constipation. Low FODMAP diets can provide remarkable benefits for many people with common digestive disorders. This article provides a detailed beginner's guide to FODMAPs and low FODMAP diets. Still hasn't told me what a FODMAP is. Here we go. What are FODMAPs? FODMAP stands for fermentable oligodemonosaccharides and polyols. These are short-chain carbs that are resistant to digestion. Instead of being absorbed into your bloodstream, they reach the far end of your intestine where most of your gut bacteria reside. Your gut bacteria then use these carbs for fuel, producing hydrogen gas and causing digestive symptoms in sensitive individuals. FODMAPs also draw liquid into your intestine, which may cause diarrhea. Although not everyone is sensitive to FODMAPs, this is very common among people with irritable bowel syndrome. Common FODMAPs include fructose, a simple sugar found in many fruits and vegetables that also makes up the structure of table sugar and most added sugars. Lactose, a carbohydrate found in dairy products like milk. Fructans, found in many foods including grains like wheat, spelt, rye, and barley. Galactans, found in large amounts in legumes. Polyols, sugar alcohols like xylitol, sorbitol, maltitol, and mannitol. They are found in some fruits and vegetables and often used as sweeteners. Summary: FODMAP stands for fermentable oligodemonosaccharides and polyols. They are small carbs that people cannot digest, particularly those with IBS. I don't think we really have to get into it anymore. That did enough of the trick. Alright, so now we looked at fructose, so now we're going to look at glucose. That's another one we keep hearing about. So glucose is a simple sugar which is an important energy source in living organisms that is a component of many carbohydrates. Okay. Glucose is a simple sugar with the molecular formula C6H12O6. Glucose is the most abundant monosaccharide, a subcategory of carbohydrates. Here's some more stats that we don't really need. Function: glucose serves a primary fuel to generate energy that the body's cells use to carry out their metabolic and biological functions. Glucose is particularly important for the brain, red blood cells, and muscle cells during exercise. Metabolism. Glucose metabolism. Glucose is stored in the body as glycogen. The liver is an important storage site for glycogen. Glycogen is mobilized and converted to glucose by gluconeogenesis when the blood glucose concentration is low. Importance: glucose, or commonly called sugar, is an important energy source that is needed by all the cells and organs of our bodies. Some examples are our muscles and our brain. Glucose, or sugar, from the food we eat. Carbohydrates such as fruit, bread, pasta, and cereals are common sources of glucose. Okay. That's about good. So now we can look at this. 6 reasons why high fructose corn syrup is bad for you. I'm sure there's more than 6, but this guy didn't want to write a book. High fructose corn syrup, HFCS, is an artificial sugar made from corn syrup. Many experts believe that added sugar and high fructose corn syrup are key factors in today's obesity epidemic, which is exactly what I just said. HFCS and added sugars are also linked to many other serious health issues, including diabetes and heart disease. Here are 6 reasons why consuming large amounts of high fructose corn syrup is bad for your health. 1. It adds an unnatural amount of fructose to your diet. The fructose in high fructose corn syrup can cause health issues if eaten in excessive amounts. Most starchy carbs, such as rice, are broken down into glucose, the basic form of carbs. However, table sugar and high fructose corn syrup comprise around 50% glucose and 50% fructose. Glucose is easily transported and utilized by every cell in your body. It's also the predominant fuel source for high-intensity exercise and various processes. In contrast, the fructose from high fructose corn syrup or table sugar needs to be converted into glucose, glycogen, stored carbs, or fat by the liver before it can be used as fuel. Like regular table sugar, high fructose corn syrup is a rich source of fructose. In the past few decades, the intake of fructose and high fructose corn syrup has increased significantly. As I said, everything nowadays has it, and this explosion of putting high fructose corn syrup in everything really started in the 90s. Before table sugar and high fructose corn syrup became affordable and widely available, people's diets contained only small amounts of fructose from natural sources such as fruits and vegetables. The adverse effects listed below are mostly caused by excess fructose, although they apply to both high fructose corn syrup, 55% fructose, and plain table sugar, 50% fructose. Summary: HFCS and sugar contain fructose and glucose. Your body metabolizes fructose differently than glucose, and consuming too much fructose can lead to health problems. Number 2, it increases your risk of fatty liver disease. High intake of fructose leads to increased liver fat. One study in men and women with excess weight showed that drinking sucrose-sweetened soda for 6 months significantly increased liver fat, compared to drinking milk, diet soda, or water. Other research has also found that fructose can increase liver fat to a greater extent than equal amounts of glucose. In the long term, liver fat accumulation can lead to serious health problems, such as fatty liver disease and type 2 diabetes. It's important to note that the detrimental effects of fructose and added sugar, including high fructose corn syrup, should not be equated with the fructose in fruit. It's difficult to consume excessive amounts of fructose from whole fruits, which are healthy and safe in sensible amounts. Summary: high fructose corn syrup can contribute to increased liver fat. This is because of its high fructose content, which is metabolized differently than other carbs. Number 3, it increases your risk of obesity and weight gain. Long-term studies indicate that excessive intake of sugar, including high fructose corn syrup, plays a key role in the development of obesity. Exactly, that's what I already said, why everybody's probably big nowadays. One study had healthy adults drink beverages containing either glucose or fructose. When comparing the two groups, the fructose drink did not stimulate regions of the brain that control appetite to the same extent as the glucose drink. Fructose also promotes visceral fat accumulation. Visceral fat surrounds your organs and is the most harmful type of body fat. It's linked to health issues like diabetes and heart disease. Moreover, the availability of high fructose corn syrup and sugar has also increased average daily caloric intake, a key factor in weight gain. Research suggests people now consume over 500 calories per day from sugar on average, which may be 300% more than 50 years ago, just like I said. Summary: research continues to highlight the role of high fructose corn syrup and fructose in obesity. It can also add visceral fat, a harmful type of fat that surrounds your organs. Number 4, excessive intake is linked to diabetes. Excessive fructose or high fructose corn syrup consumption can also lead to insulin resistance, a condition that can result in type 2 diabetes. In healthy people, increases in response to the consumption of carbs, transporting them out of the bloodstream and into cells. However, regularly consuming excess fructose can make your body resistant to insulin's effects. This decreases your body's ability to control blood sugar levels. Over the long term, both insulin and blood sugar levels increase. In addition to diabetes, high fructose corn syrup may play a role in metabolic syndrome, which has been linked to many diseases, including heart disease and certain cancers. Summary: excessive intake of high fructose corn syrup can lead to insulin resistance and metabolic syndrome, which are both key contributors to type 2 diabetes and many other serious diseases. Number 5. It can increase the risk of other serious diseases. Many serious diseases have been linked to the overconsumption of fructose. High fructose corn syrup and sugar have been shown to drive inflammation, which is associated with an increased risk of obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. In addition to inflammation, excess fructose may increase harmful substances called advanced glycation end products, AGEs, which may harm your cells. Lastly, it may exacerbate inflammatory diseases like gout. This is due to increased inflammation in uric acid production. Considering all of the health issues and diseases linked to the excessive intake of high fructose corn syrup and sugar, it may come as no surprise that studies are starting to link them to an increased risk of heart disease and reduced life expectancy. Excessive high fructose corn syrup intake is linked to an increased risk of numerous diseases, including heart disease. Number 6. It contains no essential nutrients. Like other added sugars, high fructose corn syrup is empty calories. While it contains plenty of calories, it offers no essential nutrients. Thus, eating high fructose corn syrup will decrease the total nutrient content of your diet. As the more high fructose corn syrup you consume, the less room you have for nutrient-dense foods. The bottom line: over the past few decades, high fructose corn syrup, HFCS, has become affordable and widely available. Experts now attribute its excessive intake to many serious health issues, including obesity, insulin resistance, and metabolic syndrome, among others. Avoiding high fructose corn syrup and added sugar in general may be one of the most effective ways to improve your health and lower your risk of disease. And that looks to be about it. Oh, did we look at this one? No, I don't think we did. High fructose corn syrup. Just like sugar or worse? This is a detailed article about high fructose corn syrup, what it is, how it's made, and its health effects compared to regular sugar. 20 foods with high fructose corn syrup. Okay, you can't really say 20 foods. It's in everything. Oh, whoops. I needed to click on this. I didn't realize. For decades, high fructose corn syrup has been used as a sweetener in processed foods. Due to its fructose content, it has been heavily criticized for its potential negative health effects. Many people claim that it's even more harmful than other sugar-based sweeteners. This article compares high fructose corn syrup and regular sugar, reviewing whether one is worse than the other. Some cookies. That's okay. I'm not going to say what is high fructose corn syrup. We just did a whole thing on it. High fructose corn syrup is made from corn, maize, and is usually genetically modified, GMO. The corn is first milled to produce cornstarch, which is then processed further to create corn syrup. Corn syrup consists mostly of glucose. To make it sweeter and more similar in taste to regular table sugar, sucrose, some of that glucose is converted to fructose using enzymes. Different types of high fructose corn syrup provide varying proportions of fructose. For example, while high fructose corn syrup 90 is the most concentrated form, contains 90% fructose, the most commonly used type, HFCS 55, contains of 55% fructose and 42% glucose. That's only 97. What's the other 3%? High fructose corn syrup 55 is similar to sucrose, regular table sugar, which is 50% fructose and 50% glucose. Okay, they just changed it. They said 55 was fructose glucose, 55-42, and now they're saying it's 50-50. Okay. High fructose corn syrup versus regular sugar. There are only tiny differences between high fructose corn syrup 55, the most common type of high fructose corn syrup, and regular sugar. A major difference is that high fructose corn syrup is liquid, containing 24% water, whereas table sugar is dry and granulated. In terms of chemical structure, the fructose and glucose in high fructose corn syrup are not bound together like in granulated table sugar, sucrose. Instead, they float separately alongside each other. These differences do not affect nutritional value or health properties. In your digestive system, sugar is broken down into fructose and glucose. So corn syrup and sugar end up looking exactly the same. Gram for gram, HFCS 55 has slightly higher levels of fructose than regular sugar. The difference is very small and not particularly relevant from a health perspective. Of course, if you compared regular table sugar and HFCS 90, which is 90% fructose, regular sugar would be far more desirable, and as excessive consumption of fructose can be very harmful, as we've gone over. However, HFCS 90 is rarely used, and then only in tiny amounts due to its extreme sweetness. Summary: HFCS and table sugar, sucrose, are almost identical. The main difference is that the fructose and glucose molecules are bound together in table sugar. Effects on health and metabolism. The main reason why sugar-based sweeteners are unhealthy is because of the large amount of fructose they supply. The liver is the only organ that can metabolize fructose in significant amounts. When your liver gets overloaded, it turns the fructose into fat. Some of the fat can lodge in your liver, contributing to fatty liver. High fructose consumption is also linked to insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, obesity, and type 2 diabetes. High fructose corn syrup and regular sugar have a very similar blend of fructose and glucose, with a ratio of about 50-50. Therefore, you would expect the health effects to be largely the same, which has been confirmed numerous times. When comparing equal doses of high fructose corn syrup and regular sugar, research shows that there's no difference in feelings of fullness, insulin response, leptin levels, or effects on body weight. Thus, sugar and high fructose corn syrup are exactly the same from a health perspective. I don't think that, though, even though it says this in here. Because high fructose corn syrup, even as it says, is genetically modified. Regular sugar is not. I don't know. Added sugar is bad, fruit isn't. Yeah, we went over that. Bottom line, the most common form of high fructose corn syrup, HFCS 55, is virtually identical to regular table sugar. Evidence to suggest that one is worse than the other is currently lacking. In other words, they're both equally bad when consumed in excess. Alright. Here we go. I guess that's where I'm going to end. That was a fair enough amount of information, I suppose. It kind of just enlightens you, though, to what's going on, what it can do. I feel like I didn't hit everything that I want to hit, actually, so I might make another video. I might do a video on, like, the history of high fructose corn syrup. Because obviously it says it came around because it was cheaper and such, so this might... That's maybe what I'll do. That's what I meant to do on this one. I kind of went on a tangent about what it is, though, rather than its history. So I'll do another video on the history. You know, when it first came around, when it started getting used, and how it's in everything now, and the boom of it, and all that. So consider this part one. This is like I guess you can call this just the background, just to get familiarized with what high fructose corn syrup is. So until that video, I said see ya.